Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. You do know, right? You do know that their model is predicated on wasting millions of gallons of water, okay, for their concept of energy. Oh my god, was that like their upstream, midstream, downstream? So was the inverted Joker lady supposed to be what? Like the hooker he picks up at the hotel where he goes to gamble at the casino. And then who's the other guy? Like the gaming commissioner he's trying to like give a kickback to? And then who's the third person? Is that his wife? And what is she supposed to be really stressed out and going to her therapist so that she can get a bunch of medications to help her with her stress, and then he can like maybe give her a credit card and go tell her to go buy some furnishings, and then he can like hook up all these deals with his bros? Oh my god. Is that their wellhead? Is that their wellhead? I mean, they didn't want a warhead. Is that their wellhead? Millions of gallons of water. Tons and tons and tons of water. Fracking, 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 fracking. Right? I'm sorry. I think they're disappointed. I think they wanted it skeezy. Because the whole point is apparently there's this whole tax thing. Right? The whole thing about the taxes. Remember what they said about the taxes? Yes, right? Apparently, somehow the taxes are supposed to be nasty and sinful, and then you're supposed to get somebody that doesn't eat pork to eat pork. And then they get to waive the taxes off on that person, and then they're supposed to be subjected to some sort of intellectual and spiritual torment where they're actually processing their justification for how they are not guilty of all these false charges that are being assessed to them. And in the course of that, somebody else gets to claim that as an intangible income. And they actually use that to identify that they've yielded some sort of revenue, and they get to report that as profits later on. And meanwhile, you're supposed to go through the ceremony where you perform these roles, including if you might have identification as a type of archetype based either on your literal lineage or some understanding you have of a particular cultural paradigm. So they put you through this routine, and then they levy these false charges at you, and or they try to bombard you with all of this really, really negative feedback with an understanding it's going to have an emotional toll on you, and you're just supposed to break down and say that you're sick. And if you don't actually acknowledge you have a mental illness, so that then they can put you into their whole behavioral science pipeline, they might actually do something like break your bones. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, my wrist has been hurting a lot. In the last 4 days, my wrist has been hurting a lot. Remember when I broke my wrist? Yeah, and it's the same place I broke, and that hasn't happened for a long time, right? And then I got that thing on my ankle. It's been happening for the last 4 days, right? Remember when they did that thing in February 2018? Right around the time I was having that reflection. Yeah, remember? We were talking about what happened in 2008 around the whole thing, why we were concerned about the Resco stuff. Yeah, I know, right? I know. I know. And they never got back to me because I did that thing where I contacted them about the IG report from the Water Reclamation District. Yeah, and they just decided not to get back to me. We're coming up on 2 years on that, too. As a matter of fact, tomorrow it's going to be 23 months. Right? Yeah. I mean, what can I say? They don't like what she did. I love it. Personally, I love it. But I think now we're in this weird situation because we're in this situation where we come from a political culture where you don't fat shame people and you don't look at people's bodies and the way their bodies look, and you judge them and their capabilities, including their potential for any sort of political involvement based upon how their body's shaped. But if you're in a situation where women's bodies are literally commodities and you sell their bodies and expect for them to engage in some form of conveyance as part of your energy model, and somebody has an aesthetic preference, then there's all this pressure for you to work into a specific body type. And now we're learning about that whole thing that they want to say is, the Mexican model, where you make sure her stock is overweight so there's more demand to buy it. And so you give her a lot of carbohydrates and you reduce the capacity she has to engage in any sort of physical exercise, because you want her to be overweight enough to overweight the stock, right? Right. And so now that they've done this thing where a whole bunch of people in Texas are supposed to be under the Mexican Constitution, they're trying to do that whole Mexican model, right? And so you can't be doing too much intangible production because there are all of these preclusions on certain kinds of production that can be acknowledged. And whether or not they want to admit it, if you've got somebody that's really, really capable and you're just completely fucking blowing it because you refuse to acknowledge that you're not even supposed to have access to that kind of asset at that level, yeah, right? There's very significant long-term. Is that what they mean by fracking? Did you just take millions of gallons of water a day in order to frack, in order to get to a very, very little bout of production? Because the truth of the matter is you were never supposed to be there to begin with. And you want something you're not supposed to have. And because your whole model is based on discount, because you want to be able to leverage what the actual worth is that you've hooked up into another derivative, including one that's probably illegal, with what you actually try to put on the legitimate market, then yeah, I know. And if you keep doing that for too long, you get earthquakes. I mean, you do. I mean, literally, you get, if you frack for too long, you actually get earthquakes, right? I know, we got so many problems here. Except we don't. So what do you think? Should we go on a diet? You think we should go on a diet and put it online? You know, talk about how we're dealing with our physical situation, we're dealing with our body, and talk about it from all these health perspectives. I mean, what do we got to deal with here, huh? Does somebody still want that kidney? I mean, we already know that there were things we could have done that could have been about like internal regulation. And if we had actually been able to get out of a situation where we're literally within 500 feet of a 5G tower, it would be very different. But that's not what they're letting occur, right? Yeah, right? Okay. So, I mean, we could try to spin it that we're going to go on a diet and we're going to help her slim down a little bit. And then she's going to be able to talk about it as a triumph and how somehow she made some lifestyle adjustment and she lost weight. And maybe what? She can try to offset somebody else's projections onto her of their liability with the weight she loses. But what if she, you know, is in a situation where they're constantly streaming child porn in the background and they're coding it so that when she actually eats something healthy, it's actually supposed to be one of those sins, so that she works those really, really, really awful tariffs that are connected to pretty much every fresh fruit and vegetable one can import from the United States, because they don't want to acknowledge that while they keep trying to slut shame her for being Russian, they keep also using her as a tariff waiver for China. I mean, it's very complicated, except it's not. And if they would literally just bust the guys who have been trafficking her since she was a kid, this all could have been taken care of. You understand that these are the international ramifications we're dealing with. They wanted her to get certain medical billings in order to do kickbacks for one country that is in contestation with the country they keep trying to slut shame her as, because she refused to be one of those Putin's girls, right? For the 2016 election. But meanwhile, they keep waving off all of these Chinese retaliatory tariffs onto her because she won't go to the hospital, right? It just looks like she's got some sort of, you know, adjustment going on because her hormones are all screwed up. Yeah. I mean, her hormones are really screwed up. She's not really that fat for a middle-aged woman. I mean, you know, you can actually get a job in law enforcement with a body like that. You know that? You think she could get a job in IAD? You think she'd want it? Oh, she's the attorney general. I mean, why would they? Yeah, you know how it is. Even if you are in law enforcement, they're going to try to put you down in another, you know, lower level of law enforcement. Maybe she'll be able to be in fleet management. Oh wait, that's what her retirement was supposed to be for. And they stole that. Yeah, I know. It's kind of hard for me too. I don't have any sympathy for these motherfuckers that are about to lose all their goddamn pension bennies. I really don't. I mean, yeah, I know, right? Her bennies were less than what? $1,500? And do you see how compounded it gets when you steal $1,500 from the wrong person? Yeah. And what are they bitching about? Well, I don't know. I hope they get their shit together and they stop this fracking. It's a real big fucking problem, man. It's a real waste. And I think they're going to try to make some sort of green energy pitch for investing in hydro. Right? Good thing we busted 420 this morning.